Okay, this is it. The 4Bs, Pod 72, brought to you by myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, and that is it. No Mr. All In, or, surprise, surprise, Mrs. No Show. So you're back to the misinformation in part number 5, you think?
I think it's part number 5. So, Miss No Show, no mention. She's got the link, she's got the notes, but no show. And Mr. All In, he was tucking all into a meal. So
Faux
no
pas.
Mr. All In this week.
Yeah, I think it's a faux pas from Mr. All In to forget that it's a recording day in the evening and
Yeah.
a last minute.
And he's left us all alone with the microphones. No corrections until next week when we'll have well and truly forgotten what we've said, which is probably so incorrect. So Bitcoin is centralized. It had You can buy it from Amazon in the gold form, and those are actually your Bitcoin tokens. What else can we say?
That we're both Satoshi Nakamoto redesigned Bitcoin. We're probably going to double the inflation.
Craig Wright is credible.
Yeah, I think throughout the show we should just continue to litter more half truths to the audience, and yeah, you can pull us up wherever you want. But without further ado, we'll start off on Craig Wright and Hodlonaut, right? Because that's our first
talking
story.
about our savior, Craig Wright. So it's a kind of story which I've been semi-following around Craig Wright since I've got into Bitcoin. I think I kind of missed when he became notorious, because I think it was around about when it went to, what was it, Bitcoin Cash, which he split off into.
That's right.
So I never really got a full view of him, but there's always been this smattering of him going around. I don't really understand, nor have I dug fully into the background. But he, from my understanding, is trying to sue Hodlonaut in various countries. Whereas I think this one, where he's pulled into court in, was it Norway? He, I think that was instigated by Hodlonaut in response. And so really good outcome. But it's just this mystery around Craig Wright for me. So very strange individual from what I can see. He claims he's Satoshi, which I'm kind of going, if you're Satoshi, then why is Bitcoin continuing without you? If you were Satoshi, you wouldn't have designed Bitcoin to be decentralized and pretty much be like a runaway train. So it's some very strange claims by him. But I think pretty much Hodlonaut called him a fraud and a criminal, and Craig Wright, for some reason, didn't like that.
I think a massive shout out has to go to the swarm of Bitcoiners that helped to fund Hodlonaut's defense case in this, because of course, as we know, our leader savior Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto with 1 million coins just sat ready to be moved at any point. But also he has masses of funds at his disposal as well. So I think that goes to show that it doesn't always prove to have lots of money and no credibility either.
Well, in the interview with Bitcoin Magazine, it did say that there's a bunch of lawsuits coming up. So this isn't the only one. There's various other people who he's trying to sue. And I think there's a potential appeal against Hodlonaut, and also a return leg, I think, in London as well. So there's numerous places where it's going on. It's not just him. So from what I've heard, Craig Wright's trying to attack developers as well to stop them coding on Bitcoin. And like I said, it's just the whole thing just seems ridiculous. The fact, like I said, Bitcoin's launched. It's not yours. If it was yours, you'll be able to control it. You can't. And I think the bunch of the statement which I picked out was the court concluded that Hodlonaut's statements are not unlawful, and this is after they hunted him down. And Hodlonaut and this said, "Come eat Craig and do whatever you want to do." And I think another positive is that Craig Wright has been ordered to pay Hodlonaut, what was it, $400,000, and that's on top of $60,000 which he already owes him. But from what Hodlonaut was saying, he's notorious for not paying.
Yeah.
So he's doubtful whether that money come in. But what was really good, which he said, was that money isn't anything which Hodlonaut's going to take. It's something which is going to go back into the kitty jar to protect other Bitcoiners or Bitcoin developers against frivolous lawsuits, which I thought was really good of him.
Yeah.
And additionally, that money raised, I think, in the first place, which he got through I don't know what he used, GoFundMe or something similar. I think that's gone into the slush fund. So really good to see.
Yeah, because there has to be some financial detriment to Hodlonaut, even if it's just time taken off from work. Appreciate everything else is being paid for by people donating, but ultimately it's a really really honourable thing for him to have done, and obviously the fact that he's won should give a lot of energy and obviously confidence to everybody else who may be being sued by Craig Wright to know that they can win too, because he's got a case built on sand, similar to his case of being Satoshi Nakamoto.
But like I said, not really knowing the full background around Craig Wright, my kind of question is, how long does this go on for? When does it stop? Because it just seems like these lawsuits being thrown left, right, and centre. And I just don't get it at all, because, like I said, it's Bitcoin is decentralized. It pretty much does what it wants. You cannot control it. So why are you trying to control it when you know there's no chance? There's also a really good screenshot which I saw around Twitter. I think I dropped it into the group today. I'll just try and bring it up quickly. So I thought it was one which is worth quoting around Craig Wright. So someone called Hosama, doing your own verifying and indexing is the only way to be sure your index data is secure. Dr. Craig S. Wright replies, your statement means that you do not understand Bitcoin at all. The home node does not change the index. If a block header is not secure, this relates to a problem with the hashing function, which means that nothing is Bitcoin is secure. I'm sorry, your argument is not sound. Hosama replies, oh, it's not mine. Satoshi wrote it. I mean, it just says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think that's about it for that case, but good outcome. Hopefully, Craig Wright gives up and just leaves people alone. But like I said, I would have liked Mr. Olin to be on the show to talk around the background that one, because he's been around the Bitcoin space for a lot longer.
Yeah. He might obviously pick up on it, and obviously I'm sure we'll be following any other cases. So that's your update with Craig Wright,
our Lord and Savior.
The next story that we've got is a story that I saw throughout the week, which is just a reminder to people to take any Bitcoin off the exchange. So this was a story, I think we did cover this in terms of like weeks back, if not obviously months back.
Months, because I remember it was a big ass long article. It was, he's an investor. He was like some kind of banker, and she was
some crazy
DOS
internet
artist.
Yeah,
Heather Morgan, and she had some really weird rap name. Yes. I'm just going to put it in and just see if I can find what the rap name is. But she posts some really out there videos.
That's right.
Oh my god! I typed in Heather Morgan rapper. Her rap name was Razzle Khan, and it's got some really strange videos of her doing rap and shit. But yeah, we covered that one, I think, in depth. But anyway, back to the story.
Okay, so back to the story. Effectively, the Department of Justice has recovered a large seizure of stolen, in their words, crypto. So a lot of it, Bitcoin, I'm sure, from the Bitfinex trading platform. And this was a heist that took place in 2016, where the pair hacked the platform and drained around 70 million from customers' accounts. Now, that, of course, was $70 million at that time. I don't know roughly what it would be in today's money. I don't know if the article says it.
I think it was, I mean, to put it into context, what was it in 2016? I want to say it was
less than 10,000. It would have been around five.
No, 400, £500. So we've got we got 20 multiples since then. So if it was 70 million, it was 140, about 1.4 billion now.
But don't trust our numbers, because this is the misinformation part 5. So do your own maths on that one. But yeah, say about a couple billy. But ultimately, those people are now trying to get their money back after waiting 6 long years. So the culprits have been caught.
But aren't they happy with some BFX tokens? I thought those were pretty good.
It's always the way, isn't it? And it's interesting that even till today, exchanges are still trying to push their own coins. So Bitpanda does it, Coinbase does it, Crypto.com does it, as well as obviously offering the usuals, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and so forth. They offer their own coins.
The kind of question around these own coins is, what is the use? If it's a coin without exchange, what is its use? It's like that kind of question. Like when people say, oh, when we had that big craze about crypto, people saying, I've got, God knows what is it, like Doge, SHIB, Raven, or whatever. It's like, what is the point of this coin? Oh, if Bitcoin can get to like 50 grand, then if this one gets like £1, then I'll make like thousands. But there's trillions of these coins, so there's a unit by bias. And then additionally, there was just what the hell does a coin actually do?
Yeah,
nothing. But yeah, they offered them. They created tokens, so you're holding Bitcoin, the soundest asset ever, and the platform's lost it. And so what we've done is, for every dollar which you've lost, we're going to give you a BFX token. So how do you do that? Do you convert the dollars to these tokens? No, we just made the tokens out of thin air, but we're going to give them to you. So it's pretty much like fiat. Like you lost your Bitcoin, we're going to give you Fiat 2.0, which is even less back because nowhere even takes this Fiat 2.0. So pretty much you've been handed monopoly money.
Yeah, exactly. And people happily take this monopoly money or don't question the monopoly money. Because I remember when Crypto.com was having its big 100 million marketing plan and everybody was rushing in. And to be fair, they still are, because I know the numbers, given the role that I do, in terms of like their weekly and obviously annually intake of new customers. But they were purposefully holding people's funds by getting them to buy into this CRO coin as well. And it was effectively a Ponzi scheme, where people coming in were paying the people at the top that were there before, and you couldn't get your money out until a certain period of time.
Yeah, because I remember we talked about it and we were all thinking, oh, should we just sign up to get the free coins and sell them? But you had to have them for something like 4 months.
Yeah, 4 to 6 months. And obviously the longer you held, the more that you got. But you knew what you were doing, basically, didn't you?
Who wants to be the last person holding the bags?
Yeah, that's the one.
But yeah, they got this, and it went from $1 to 20 cents within no time. So it devalued to a fifth of the price, and this is back when Bitcoin was worth £500. So essentially, not only have you moved from losing a £500 per Bitcoin asset, it's now hit a fifth. So it's gone from £500 to £100. You don't have the Bitcoin; it's worth a fifth of value. And Bitfinex count this as, well, we've paid them with Bitfinex coins. I think if someone had done that to me, I would have told them where to go. I don't want their shitty shit coin, but also I'm not that stupid that I keep my coins on a platform. So I think Bitfinex, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was around about DeFi, or is this before the time of DeFi? And it's just people keeping it on a platform.
This was before the time, and you're absolutely right. And this is the problem that a lot of people faced. I don't think that there were many things like Pod 70 security and the awareness of taking your Bitcoin off the exchange and then holding it somewhere else, despite the Mt. Gox episode and saga that had happened a couple of years before.
Mt. Gox was what, 2012? But since then, this is
13, yeah.
This is a prime example, and the other one was it Quadriga in Canada?
That's right.
They are prime examples of why you should hold your Bitcoin, because an exchange is not fully safe. They lose it or they guarantee you money, but what happens if Bitcoin goes through the roof? You can't afford to buy back in. So just do the hard work, follow what we talked about in Pod 70, buy some ledgers, buy some metal seed storage, find some good places or other people's houses or whatever else, and put it all together. Spend some time in sorting your security. Don't trust a platform. Though I know it was going to be lawsuits, because now the coins have been not so much found but reclaimed from Razzle Khan and the Crocodile of Wall Street. But they can but Bitfinex is saying but it's theirs. So there's going to be lawsuits against Bitfinex because they give them a shitcoin. But it depends on how these people actually accepted these tokens. Because it'd been me, I would have told them where to go. I don't want their shitty shitcoin.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people may have just accepted it.
But I think ultimately you've got to think this is a finite asset that has nothing else that can recreate or replicate it. And ultimately, if like one of the guys on there had 91 Bitcoins on there, and then of course has been given the option to convert, he said that he converted. So the moment that he's done that, he's out the trade. So Bitfinex can effectively say, well, you swapped out, even though you only got 25% of the actual value. And he then went on to say that they haven't really refunded him in full. But I guess when you press, complete or exchange or whatever it might have been, and he kind of signed everything away.
You're right. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So it's one of those stories. Make sure you store your Bitcoin securely. Take self custody. But also, if you do happen to lose your Bitcoin on a platform, don't take the shitcoin.
Here's one for you, right? And kind of along the same lines. We talk about don't leave your Bitcoin on the platform, but would you leave money on the platform, similar to like how you leave money in the bank? So let's say you've got a trade going on and you want to leave it. So let's say you got £1,000, nothing huge, but that £1,000 is there. And you're there saying if Bitcoin was to ever go to 5,000 or 3,000 again, like when COVID happened, it would buy it immediately. So it'd wick down and then it'd pick it up. Because you'd lose that money the same way, or you could lose that money the same way as you could lose the Bitcoin. But would you
There are
leave?
there are guarantees. So on Coinbase, it is protected. What is it, up to 70,000? So you have got that with Coinbase. So I suppose I'd be more willing to leave the fiat. I think my point is really don't use an exchange to store all your Bitcoin. I mean, you're going to leave bits on at a time. So currently I've got a bit on because I need to sort out my ledgers because I want to do changes in security and I want to sort all out. So I haven't moved some recently bought Bitcoin off. Don't worry, government. I've only got 5 Satoshis.
You wouldn't leave life-changing amounts on, is what you're saying ultimately.
The majority of my stack is secure in ledgers, securely hidden at different locations.
That could be lost at any moment or from a boating accident, you say?
Yeah. Oh shit, it has. It's just happened.
Oh my gosh. Get the life jacket on, mate. You're gonna have to go diving.
I'm gonna have to start giving out HJs around the back of the station. Buy me some more Bitcoin. But yeah, just be safe. Don't be stupid. Don't be lazy. Is my advice. Make sure ledgers can fail. Make sure you have it backed up in metal, and make sure the metal is somewhere secure, safe. I think that's probably about all that I can say about this one, apart from Razzle Khan and the crocodile of Wall Street.
The thing is, as well, even though it's happened what we've just noted 3 times, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens again. And so, just be mindful of what you're doing with your money. I think leaving fiat on a trusted exchange, and I say trusted loosely, but a trusted exchange like a Coinbase would be absolutely fine, given the fact that they've got some form of, restoration back to customers. Anything else, don't do it. Don't do it to yourself.
Yeah. If you've got free shit coins, just convert them quick to Bitcoin and transfer them out.
Yeah. I mean, I've got the the free Bitcoin lessons Bitcoin on my Coinbase account. So, not again life-changing amounts, but nonetheless, it's still on there. And this is a game of accumulation, You want to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible and hold it for the long term.
Well, we are seeing that in the markets at the moment. Like people saying, oh, Bitcoin's not doing that badly, but not doing that well. But the principles of Bitcoin have changed. There's only ever going to be 21 million coins. We know quite a lot are lost already. It's decentralized. It uses proof of work. Nothing's changed. What has changed about your stock, shares, bonds, fiat? Your fiat has been devalued by 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% over the last few years, depending on what country you're in. Your stocks are being hit everywhere because of the inflation and the cost of living caused by the price of lockdowns. So your shares are being hit at the moment, and also they can be diluted at any point. There's various other plays which I don't even know about in shares. So it's not just a straightforward system. Bonds, you don't get a great return. And guess what we're seeing? We're seeing a downturn in bonds because everyone's realized that countries are so indebted and they're not worth a lot. So, when you look at Bitcoin in that way, it is one of the better assets to hold. The principles are always there and they cannot be changed.
I think maybe in this, I know this is a conversation we regularly have off air with one another, is perhaps the next time that you and I are together, we go through the various different options, such as property, such as gold, such as stocks, and why we always seem to come back to our beloved Bitcoin. But we'll try and make an argument for them all. But
we know. I mean, there's arguments for all, but The argument which is against Bitcoin is wide acceptance. But what you're seeing is with the age ranges, it is starting to change. So as the generations get older or die out, you're going to end up with more people going for Bitcoin, whereas gold, I think we discussed this about Uganda Hall. So it was 50 or 60% of the current gold in circulation is believed to be in mines in Uganda after they did some detection work. So what does that do to the price of gold? And when's the next haul of gold going to be found? And then what about these asteroids which have been reported, which are a stack full of more gold than the Earth's ever seen?
Yeah. So for a little bit of background and context, essentially gold is seen as, finite. Now it's been rising for the last, thousands of years, I guess, at 2%, whilst we've been mining gold. And so the increase in gold has been slow, but yet it has always been constant. Now we know the year 2140, Bitcoin will cease in terms of the creation of it and the mining of more Bitcoin. We're already at 90%. But this new finding of gold actually should decrease the price by half. I don't know why it hasn't, which is very strange.
I think it's because you have reports of how much there is, so it's based upon, I don't know, inspections, whatever they want to call it, and it's not until you dig it all out that you truly know how much gold is there.
Yeah.
So theirs will be on some kind of survey where they've estimated, but the fact is that they could find large deposits of anywhere. It could be on the Antarctic, it could be not just in Uganda, but somewhere like Kenya. It could be in France. It could be in Ukraine. It could be anywhere. And there could be massive deposits which they just haven't come across yet.
Yeah.
And if you look at the gold mining companies, look into their financials, you'll find out that their reserves are kept in gold and they're increasing every year as well. So production of gold may be 2% as they claim, but these gold mining companies are actually mining a lot more gold and it's sitting in their reserves. So there's a lot more on the planet than they actually state. It's a manipulated asset, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
We talk about that a little bit in one of the later stories about BRICS. So we might want to leave that a bit.
Okay. Yep.
We've got one which Mr. Allin put in before he decided to go out for dinner about everyone's favourite puppet, Dishy Rishi. So if you're not familiar with the UK, Rishi Sunak has become the Prime Minister in, I suppose, strange circumstances. We had the shortest serving Prime Minister in Liz Truss, and then Rishi got in without a vote from anyone. Everyone else dropped out the race suddenly, which I still find very weird. They're like, oh, there's no one credible. They couldn't get the votes. I'm like, they could though.
They could, yeah.
Yeah, Penny Mormont went down the line, went, I think, to the second to last round, and Boris threw his hat in, and then suddenly mysteriously backs out. So I don't really know what to make of this one.
As quick as he threw his hat in, he was out, wasn't he? Pretty much.
Yeah, it's just very, very strange. So Rishi Sunak, everyone's favourite suave former banker, part of a boys' club, married to a billionaire heiress, someone who doesn't need to work for 120 grand a year, probably makes more in interest on his personal bank account, probably makes more on his stocks and shares, probably makes more on his property portfolio, probably makes more from doing after dinner talks, but yet he wants to become a Prime Minister of the UK. Very, very strange. Why would you, Rishi, want to become Prime Minister of the UK, which is full of stress, and you don't need to financially do this?
I mean, 42 years old and has a combined family fortune of about 730 million.
Yeah, he didn't do badly in his career at all. So even just on his own, he could be living it up,
Exactly.
clubbing in Iron Apple, doing some dodgy dancing in front of the cameras.
Yeah.
But instead, he's become Prime Minister of the UK. So, on a separate subject, I came across this website, the World Economic Forum, and he's listed on there. Really strange. And I've also seen this other unconnected thing about how he likes CBDCs. And he thinks it's a way forward because they can airdrop money. That sounds really good.
Yeah.
I mean, CBDCs couldn't be used to control the money and ultimately create digital food stamps, could they?
Yeah.
They couldn't be linked to a social credit score and basically turn people into slaves and dictate what they do, what they eat, where they go. No, that couldn't happen. It couldn't create an underclass. No.
I also just got some breaking news from a friend who always listens, and the news was UK lawmakers vote to recognise Bitcoin and crypto as regulated financial instruments. That was just before we went on air.
I wonder what their angle on that is. Because it could either be the lead up to the CBDCs, which is probably actually the one, but it's also, could they make more money from Bitcoin somehow?
Well, it'll always be a tax. Literally, I just put in to Google UK lawmakers, and then it came up already. So this is breaking news. UK lawmakers vote to recognise crypto as regulated financial instruments. The lower house of the parliament voted in favour of adding crypto to the scope of activities to be regulated via the proposed Financial Services and Markets Bill, which already seeks to extend payment rules to stable coins. Essentially, I think that this is a way of masking the legitimacy of CBDCs by also including stable coins, bitcoins, and yes, CBDCs.
Yeah. So it's a bit. So it's not really about tax; it's about getting CBDCs acceptable into the market, and everyone going, you can airdrop UBI, and it's just like, you could airdrop fucking fiat. You just don't. You could do it across Vimo, you could do it across PayPal, but you don't. There's no benefit to people about using CBDCs. So anyone who's a socialist, there's no benefit whatsoever. It can be done today. The only thing which you're getting from this is digital serfdom. It is, I think, well, actually not digital serfdom, digital feudalism. Basically, you're going to be the serfs now. You'll be dictated to, and they'll also wrap it around with carbon credits as well.
Yeah.
So it's the one thing which you do not want in. This is end game.
But you'll be fooled, or many of you will be fooled, and you will accept it. And you know what? If there's a way of taking this, the CBDCs, and converting it immediately into Bitcoin, do it. Take it, but don't take it with a notion of this is good for you, because it's not.
Oh, it'll be, you won't be able to convert it once you're on CBDCs. They're the only thing which you can have. You got to stick with those digital food stamps. You will own nothing and you'll be happy. You'll eat the bugs and you'll get back in your pod.
It is really, just think, a digital coupon. You have a coupon that is only available to spend in certain stores on certain things, that has expiry dates and times and limitations on what you can do with it.
But what's interesting is, I don't think CBDCs are solely aimed at people. I think this iteration is more aimed at businesses.
Correct.
And the reason why I say this is because they can do whatever they want with fiat at the moment. They can print it out of thin air. They can block bank accounts, as proven in Canada, whenever they want under some dickhead law. But with CBDCs, what they can do is they can go, oh, we pumped in another 33% of the currency. So with that 33%, we can. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my train of thought back then. With that 33%, it'd mean that gas rises by 33%. So what they do is, you use too much carbon, and therefore none of you can buy gas. And what that means is no one can buy gas, therefore the gas company needs to bring their price down. And the same applies across various different products. So it's actually a way of controlling inflation. The government can then print whatever they want, and companies have to toe the line. So go, oh, chicken's gone up by 40%. You printed 40% more currency. No one's buying chicken. Too many carbon credits. It's no chicken week. And bang, price goes back down. Otherwise, chicken suppliers go bankrupt. So therefore, the government ends up with infinite money, or rather the government and the rich, and all the plebs and companies end up with that same amount, so the government can do whatever they want, and you really do end up with the elites and the plebs.
I do think as well with companies, of course, you can charge a hell of a lot more than you can from individuals. So corporates, I think, are going to get hit big time, as well as the individuals. It'll hurt individuals more, but it will, of course, also affect corporates.
If they here's one: if they really cared, they'd stop flying around in their silly private jets and their yachts. But they don't. They keep on doing it. They go to Davos. They go to COP26 in their jets.
Okay, so on to the next story. Bitcoiners must fight the fat F in its AML regime.
So, Mr. Orlando, he's put it
in on purpose.
He put it in. You're not here, so fuck you. I'm not talking about it.
So yeah, when you're editing this, big F you.
Right. So we're moving on to bricks.
Yeah, we're moving on straight on to bricks.
So this is something which I'm a bit enthralled by. It's almost like that secret organization. I don't know. I'm trying to think of some movies. Hydra out of Marvel, or what else we had? Some secret organizations like the WEF or something. Like, I'm looking at bricks and I'm a bit excited. I like the look of it because they're talking about using a metal-backed currency, which, as you probably know my thoughts from two questions before, I'm not the biggest fan, because how much gold is there in the world?
Yep.
How can you back a currency with a precious metal if you don't know how much of it is? We've got better tech now. Come on. And it's certainly not F. But I think it has got some legs, because when you compare a metal-backed currency to pure fiat, there's only one winner for the people. Like, fiat is not there for all those plebs. It's only there to enrich the rich, and it allows governments to come up with silly promises which they can't keep and print themselves out of trouble and siphon money out to them and their friends. But what I took from this, so the Saudis have expressed interest in joining BRICS, and there's also, they cut the oil supply, so they pissed off the US on two fronts, and it does sound like Saudi Arabia needs some democracy, some democracy bombs. But if they join BRICS, so they do, sign the dotted line, then they're in with, who is it? China, Russia, India, Brazil, and Argentina, South Africa.
Right.
Argentina are begging to go in, but who the fuck would want Argentina when they have hyperinflated the currency so many times? I think they've had 4 new currencies over the last 100 years. Average inflation over the last 50 is over 100%. So why would you want a shitcoin joining your lot when it's some really sound companies, growing economies, really strong economies, really good natural resources, and Argentina, though they have got good beef and steaks. Yeah. So they could do the food, but they're also, I think, being funded by the IMF, which is why they closed off all the kind of like investments into Bitcoin, as people are trying to escape the shitcoin, which is known as the Argentinian peso. So Saudi cut the oil when the US begged them to open it up because we've sanctioned Russia. And it just shows that Saudi Arabia hate the US. They've hated this hold which they've had over the world. And I think it is a bunch of countries starting to kind of bundle together to fuck over the US because they want them out of the picture. They've had too much power. They've destroyed values. They took everyone's gold, built their infrastructure with gold, then told everyone there was no gold left, and told them to go on a fiat standard, which was underpinned by the US dollar, which they could print whatever they wanted. So the US are trying to threaten Saudi Arabia with no support. So it sounds like they're going to get some freedom bombs soon.
Well, interesting if Argentina were to join, BRICS could turn to basics. And so they could use the anagram back to basics. I can see you working it out.
Where's the second C from?
They would only have the one C, which would be China.
Yeah.
But the A for Argentina,
yeah,
would go in. So it would be, you jumble the words around and you would have basics.
R.
No,
Brassics.
yeah, Brexit. Yeah. We can't have that in. We can't have that.
Yeah, but I think this is probably one of the most interesting developments, the whole thing about BRICS within the world.
Yeah.
I think we're probably understating this in the West because the US are probably shit scared. They can't take on China.
No.
They can't take on Russia. You know, all these companies together, this is a proper powerhouse. It isn't a shitload of countries like Europe who are just failing economies. These are strong economies and growing.
So are we saying that the Saudis have chosen a side, essentially?
Well, they've expressed interest, so we are jumping the gun. But you get Saudi Arabia in there as well. I just think it's even stronger. I know the Saudis, they are dependent upon oil, and oil won't last forever. But at the moment, it's king. They're a net exporter, whereas the US are net importers, basically get a shitload from China. And you look at Russia, they got lots of natural resources, and they're going to have more when they fully take over Ukraine. Saudi got lots of natural resources. Brazil, it's a manufacturing hub. India, manufacturing hub. Everything's just there. It's not some shit countries who, struggle to do a day's work.
Well, essentially, they're befriending the people that could be potentially, obviously, the world superpowers in the upcoming years. So it makes sense to align yourself to potentially the winning team long term.
Yeah, exactly. But also, I think every country just hates the US that much.
Correct. It's been years of, obviously, dictatorship.
Manipulation of currency, forcing everyone's hand with manipulation of currency, invading countries for interests such as oil or going against the US, and the regime's about to change. So really, really interesting development. I'll be watching this space.
Yeah, it goes back to our famous book, Ray Dalio's Changing World Order as well. And we are living through it. And essentially, all of these nations coming together to form a coalition. And I think this coalition was initially it was initially highlighted around 2010 after the financial crisis. And it was more around the fact that they were more up and coming, if not earlier than 2010, because China and their technology, as you said, obviously, South Africa was coming more and more into the Western, well, I say the Western world, more developed world.
Yeah, I mean, South Africa's relatively developed. I don't know if it really compares to other countries, but it probably is one of the powerhouses of Africa, so it's got that on its side. But the other countries I look at, like India, Brazil, they're massively upcoming.
So So it would be interesting to see if they get them to change their minds or potentially try to take one out at a time. That
If you're going
one
to take
could
one
be
out,
Russia.
it would be Argentina.
Well, you would easily take Argentina out. I don't even think
It's
Argentina
like,
will get
but
in.
it would be like, deciding you don't like a group of lads in your school and you go for the disabled child.
We have to say something to get us cut off air, don't we? So that's the comment. If you're looking for a soundbite, there you have it. Take out the disabled child.
Well, it's true though. Argentina is not really a threat, but it's the type of thing which the US would do because India's got a relatively strong army. China certainly has. Russia has. I suppose South Africa hasn't, so they could drop some freedom bombs there.
Yeah.
But I doubt they've got the natural resources to fund the war.
Yeah, exactly. You just got an insight as to why we call you Dr. Evil 10% just then as well. The early Dr. Evil 10% would think about taking out the disabled child. Okay. Definitely one to watch though, without a shadow of a doubt.
So, should we finish with
our recurring story?
Do we want to finish with our inflation weekly?
It's our favorite topic.
Well,
let's go for it.
I was hoping since Mr. Orland put in, he'd be here to help us with some facts because I've read through his story. I've had a good Google search on this, but I'll talk about it first. So, the UK taxpayers forced to bail out the Bank of England after losing 11 billion. So there's a link to a subreddit for Bitcoin, and there's an article posted there, and it links to an article on Bloomberg. Now, I've read this article, and it is, how do I best describe it? Bullshit bingo. So it's full of all this nonsense. So I'll find the paragraph here. So Bloomberg calculations suggest a BOE's annual loss could top 20 billion as soon as next year. The shortfall stems from the design of the BOE's bonds buying under its quantitative easing program, where the central bank bought bonds and financial markets to stimulate the economy and limit interest rates. As part of the 895 billion QE program, so money printing, an equivalent amount of reserves were created in forms of deposits held by commercial bank lenders at banks, so the money gets pushed out to banks. The central bank pays interest on those reserves at the current bank rate. But who does it pay back to? So the Bank of England, initially the cost was more than covered by income earned on government bonds bought by the Bank of England with the money created. So it creates money, it buys bonds, and then it ships that money off to banks. Okay, that equation has changed now that interest rates have risen to 2.25. So it owes money to itself, which it's bought bonds with and shipped out to commercial banks. I'm kind of going, this makes no sense. Just say you made money out of thin air. We all know it.
Yeah.
It's just a pile of bullshit. It's literally like some of the things which my son comes out with when you ask him why something happened, why a vase is smashed. He comes up with the biggest pile of bullshit which you've ever heard. And you're like, that didn't happen, did it? Yes, it happened because no. You printed the money out of thin air and you're trying to blame it on other stuff. So pretty much in this magical little world of fake money, the Bank of England has had to be bailed out by the government.
Yeah.
For 11 billion. So it's just basically gibberish, that story. That's why I really wanted Mr. All In. I wanted to talk to him about this one. And I think there's one of a story, but he's out there swanning around, having a meal at Weatherspoons, eating his all-day breakfast, thinking he's Mr. Billy Big Bollocks.
Meanwhile, as I've gone on to one of my favorite websites, which the audience hasn't heard of for a while from myself, which is the UK National Debt Clock. And so not the US, the UK. So on the
I didn't
US
know that existed.
Oh yes, my friend. It's just a link that's on there. So whilst you're on the US debt clock, I'll put it in our chat whilst we're speaking, and obviously we can leave it in the show notes as well for the audience to go in. But essentially, you can not only see the US debt clock, but you can see the debt clock of other countries as well. So as we're speaking now, the UK national debt is at 3,404,953,670 and counting. Because that's how I was counting, even at the rate of quicker than a second, it's going up. And I would literally be counting from now 750, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, it's like going super, super quick.
So do we know how much sterling is in the world market?
Good question. Well, we know that, I mean, that's been a phrase that's been bandied around quite often recently in terms of the amount of dollars in circulation. Let's have a look. Sterling in circulation. Sterling coins in circulation. Banknote statistics. According to Bank of England, there are over 4.7 billion Bank of England notes in circulation.
So that's the actual cash available. How much sterling is in bank accounts, investments, etc.? Because I expect that to be easily 100 to 1,000 times as much.
Yeah. In terms of everything else, it's saying on the website, together with everything, they're worth about 82 billion.
I'd say there's got to be more, but 11. Yeah, because you think like there's billionaires and bordering on trillionaires in the world, surely the UK, but someone like Elon Musk isn't worth more than all the cash within the UK.
I mean, this is where the misinformation, this
so
is
we're
where
saying
we really take
it's probably somewhere about the national debt, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll go for that figure. Fuck it. Let's say 3 trillion. So the 11 billion, which the Bank of England had to be bailed out of, isn't that significant, but it's still. How can you be bailed out in a game which you run? Literally, you're playing Monopoly, and you are the banker, but you've got a piece as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's literally how can you run out of money? It is like absolutely ridiculous. And it just, it's another sign that I think fiat world is dying. But my worry is really that CBDC is getting. We try and sell it to the con people like you can get airdrop money. And like I said, if you get told, if you think that's an advantage, why don't we do it with PayPal at the moment? Why don't we do it with Vimo? Why don't we do it to HSBC or NatWest or whoever you bank with accounts? They can do it. It's easy. You can literally get all the account numbers and sort codes pretty easy from all those. And it'll also be on your pay slip, so they know which ones are actively paying tax. So they could do it to all those. They could do it to all people get paid pensions, all people getting benefits. It's all got the linked bank accounts. They've got all this information, but they're not. And also, if you start doing airdrops, basically UBIs to people, you end up in a mess like we are at the moment, where your electricity, your gas will go through the roof. You'll be told that inflation is 10%, but why is everything costing you 40% more? Because inflation is probably closer to 40%.
Yeah. I'm just looking on the Bank of England website to see if there was anything of use in terms of the circulation, but nothing. It just talks about banknote statistics. Again, probably one for us to come back to, actually, because it does look like it's got quite a bit in. And the reason why I talk about this is earlier on today, again, as we were talking off air, the famous hedge fund manager, Ray Dalio, in 2020 was quoted as "cash is trash." He's reversed his decision recently and said that it might not be trash. And he also cited Warren Buffett as a man who's never said that cash is trash, who's currently sitting on 105 billion in cash. Just take that in for a second.
It is always trash because it's getting devalued year after year. And whilst you're sitting on it, and as we've seen over the last couple of years, it's not really your money. And certainly with the introduction of CBDCs, it will definitely not be your money. You'll be getting loaned basically a food voucher or a food stamp. But it's finding a viable alternative because everything's harder, like shares go all over the place. Bonds are basically the ultimate shit coin. You've got gold, which is being manipulated and you don't know what the supply is. Property, which is becoming harder and harder with taxes and government intervention. Correct. So it's increasing rent. It's causing backlash on landlords. I mean, you've got Bitcoin, which is an emerging technology, which people do see a high risk with. But then you've got to look at it and go, well, what is the principles of sound money? Does Bitcoin meet that? Yes. Is it a risk not holding Bitcoin?
Mm-hmm. Yes. simple answer. Because when I think you look back and CBDs will be introduced, then you'll think you'll have no alternative. Because if you look around at many of the shops that you go to now, they're not accepting cash. So this is being phased in right in front of your eyes in plain sight. And I don't know, but I'm going to go out on a whim to say potentially shops and businesses that don't offer the ability to allow their customers to use cash might be getting some sort of incentives from the government in order to do so. I said that. Think about it.
I have to ask someone, next time someone says we only accept cash, how come?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, yeah. It'll have to be someone of note, obviously.
Because it is trading currency of the UK. It is illegal not to accept cash. So I think if I come across one, I'll ask them why. Yeah. Do you accept Bitcoin? Good, because you're not having any of my Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, a lot of them are obviously moving to card payments, but those card payments will effectively and eventually be CBDC payments. And similar to chip and pin, it's just, it's happening over time. Chip and pin was there, and then removed from chip and pin slightly, still available, but of course now you just tap it, but it'll all be for ease. And then I'm sure they'll come up with the lie that cash spreads disease, and that's why. So it's safer for the environment. It's
cash causes dictatorships. It funds terrorists.
Yeah.
It gave Father Christmas herpes. And it beat up Argentina.
Yeah. So yeah, following from COVID, a lot of shops just simply went cashless.
Yeah, I'm going to ask the question if I come across a shop because I'd be intrigued. I don't. But then again, like if you think about government incentive, at the moment they all use what the networks, Visa or MasterCard, don't they? And correct. They can't. And everyone knows about the credit card fees because that's why certain why that was big standoff between Visa and Amazon, because Amazon were like, fuck you, we're not paying your fees because they're extortionately high. I think it's like 3%. So we all know about credit cards, but actually on debit cards, there's a percentage on every transaction which no one knows about. So it's not just a free transaction, they're still paying, but it's less than a credit card. I want to say it's like 1% or something like that. And this is what someone used as an argument against Bitcoin to me was, well, in Bitcoin, you always pay a transaction fee and it's quite expensive. Well, I said, first of all, 2016 wants its FUD back because we have a Lightning network. Well, you still pay for that, but it's literally a fraction of a penny. Well, it's still more than using debit cards. Well, I said, actually, it's not. It's on every single transaction on a credit and debit card. It's just varying amounts. So for a credit card, it is a few percent, which is why stores aren't keen on you paying for your credit card if it's, under £10. And then with a debit card, I think it's around about 1%. So if you buy a tenner of something, it's £1 goes to it, and it's baked into every transactional purchase which you make. So in theory, if you went to a Bitcoin standard, it would take off a reasonable amount of money on every transaction. So credit cards would still semi-exist, wouldn't they? Because everyone would still want that kind of like immediate loan. But with debit cards, you'd hope that maybe it'd shave off 0.5% on the actual fee for whatever goods you're purchasing.
Yeah.
Which could be used to buy more sats.
I've just found that I'm going to read it out. The law says shops don't have to accept cash. So most people think it's their right to use cash to pay for goods at the shops, but the reality is that's not the case. Even though our pennies and pounds are often referred to as legal tender, it's actually the business owner's right to decide what payment methods they want to accept. After an online petition was launched to make it unlawful for shops to refuse cash, the government confirmed in April that it does not plan to mandate cash acceptance. So it's already been obviously put forward, and they've refused to do so. So whilst cash transactions remain important to millions of people, particularly the vulnerable and elderly, it's the choice of the individual businesses. As we move ever closer to a cashless society, those elderly and those more vulnerable may rely on cash for budgeting, and it's easy to overspend when you're using a card. So there you have it. It doesn't give any background detail just from this specific article, but I think somewhere they will be getting some sort of benefit by not accepting cash.
I suppose they don't have to do bank runs at the end of the day, do they?
That's what they did say as well. It's a little bit safer for the cash. For the employees, and obviously time wise.
Yeah, I think with CBDCs, another thing is their plans to cut out commercial banks. So pretty much you'd have a bank account with the government, and also cut out the payment networks as well. So you'd lose Visa. But the benefit of them saying it'd all be within government is, do you really think the government got the capability to do something like this?
Yeah. No, I don't.
Yeah,
not immediately, anyway. Exactly.
They'd have to get a decent company in, and we all know these consulting companies love the government because they just fleece them for money.
Yeah. Again, that's why I think at the beginning you will be able to take some free cash and potentially, buy assets with it. So if you get that helicopter money, convert it into Bitcoin, because that's what happened during the pandemic. People, they went into Bitcoin or they went into stocks. But then there were some dumb purchases, I'm sure, in terms of things like jacuzzis, cars, big TVs, and
lots of new cars about. There's going to be a lot of these cars on the market soon. Because you think 2020, 2021, it'll be a 2 to 3 year lease, and once that comes up, they're going to be fucked, so they can't renew it or get a new car. So there's going to be a lot of cars coming onto the market in the next year.
Definitely.
And potentially jacuzzis. But I don't know if I'd purchase one of them.
Not secondhand.
No.
Right, well, there you have it. The misinformation, part 5. We tried to throw in some numbers in there. Don't trust anything that we say. Go and do your own homework. Verify everything. Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto.
I heard he's also Saifedean Ammous as well.
Yeah, he's definitely that, without a shadow of a doubt. I think Mr. All-In is probably having his transgender operation as we speak as well.
See, if anyone's actually listening, you're just hoping that we get cancelled now.
Yeah, of course. We're just ruling out a whole genre of people. What else? Who else can we offend?
Well, I've already gone for disabled people, haven't I, with Argentina?
Yeah, naturally.
This is a disabled kid.
If we don't say something offensive in order to get us a strike from YouTube, we've already talked about.
I would say something like Peter McCormack, because he tweeted today that he wants Bitcoin to be more inclusive. I'll say, fuck your inclusivity. But it's actually a serious point, because Bitcoin is open to everyone. Yeah. Don't care who you are, just as long as you believe in some money.
Yeah. I mean, you can't force people to want to do things like that. It's like, I always hear Lewis Hamilton talk about he wants more people of colour to be in Formula One, but if they're not attracted to it, then, or they don't have any desire, then you can make as many jobs as you want and they're still not going to come. Very similar to women in IT and tech. If they're not interested in that, then we can talk to women and young girls to obviously say that it's not a male-dominated industry, but if they don't want to, then they won't, right?
Everyone can enter the industry. Everyone can enter Bitcoin.
Yeah.
There's no barriers there.
It's one of our popular podcasts on YouTube. Bitcoin is for Hitler as well. Remember that one? If you want to go through the archives, have a listen.
It is current mode, so I don't know how relevant it'd be anymore.
No. But there you have it. That was Pod 72, brought to you by Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution. She was here, but she's never here, Mrs. No Show, aka still Mrs. No Show, and he should have been here, but Mr. All-In, aka the $1 trillion man. Will he show up as a man? Will he show up as a woman? Will he show up? We don't know if he's got boobs next week. We don't know. Has he gone for a penis extension? We don't know.
Or was he just round the back of the old little shelf building near where he lives, giving HJs for sats?
Anything to
with some movies.
Stats. Yeah, with some movies. There you have it. Right. Peace out.
Laters.